Oh, hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. This working? Is this working? It's working. We're live. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. So, a lot to talk about. I want to start off with bragging. Elon replied to me yesterday, I guess technically, depending on where you are. I think it's today for me, it's yesterday for you. If Elon, maybe it was yesterday for me. This is a political topic, and I'm going to be talking about this political topic. And I'm sorry for the lighting. I'm still working out the lighting here in Japan. It is 11 p.m. here in Japan. It is 10 a.m. East Coast in the US and 7 a.m. West Coast in the US. So this is a political oriented topic. So I don't tend to talk about politics on YouTube. I will be doing a second live stream on the Daily Live, warrenredlick.locals.com. It is linked in the top of the chat, and I didn't put a link in the video description yet, but warrenredlick.locals.com. I will be live streaming there in about an hour. But I wanted to cover this first. I was originally not planning to talk about politics at all. I wasn't planning on doing a live stream on the Daily Live, but I realized there was so much that happened politically related to Elon. So I am going to cover that there. So please check out warrenredlick.locals.com. You have to sign up, but not pay. I think there's two different buttons you would choose if you go to warrenredlick.locals.com, and it's the sign up to be on to give your email address, but you don't have to pay for it. You can support me on the Daily Lie, and I appreciate your support on the Daily Lie. But what we're really going to talk about today is we're going to talk about Tesla, we're going to talk about SpaceX, a little bit of Neuralink, and let's dive into that right now. We're going to start with Cybertruck. And again, I apologize for the lighting. I can see how bad the lighting is. Um, so uh, there's this popular thing that people talk about, the Osborne effect or cannibalization is a popular thing people talk about. So there's a question, somebody's suggesting that Cybertruck will be a drag. Cybertruck is going to cannibalize Model Y. Now, Model Y is the best-selling vehicle in the world. Cybertruck has been hinted out there. Model Y continues to be the best-selling vehicle in the world. I believe, and I wrote it up here, that Cybertruck might very well cannibalize Model X. I don't think Cybertruck is going to cannibalize Model Y. I think demand for Model Y is so large that it's not an issue, and the supply of Cybertruck is going to take a while to ramp. And I think there's another side to this cannibalization story that I think people are missing. I think Cybertruck may dramatically increase, and I don't know the answer to this, right? I think there's a strong chance that Cybertruck will increase the brand power of Tesla. That people are going to see this thing on the road, and they're going to say, "What the hell is that?" And then they're going to go to a Tesla store and say, "Oh, well, I guess I'm not really ready for a Cybertruck, but boy, those Model 3s are really affordable." Like, or the Model Y might be a really good fit for me. So it may lift all boats. And I can't say which is a bigger impact, that if the potential of buying Cybertruck stalls people from buying something else versus the publicity generated by Cybertruck makes people more aware of Tesla and more likely to buy other things. Volume up, please, if you can. I'm in the car. I think my volume is at the right level. I'm looking at my volume and my volume is right. So I can't, if I went higher on my volume, it would distort the audio. So I appreciate the request, but that's on your car, not on me. So then the other thing about Cybertruck, just there's been a lot of Cybertruck sightings. There's a multiple Cybertrucks that have this RC on the side, which we believe stands for release candidate. Multiple Cybertrucks. Here's some Cybertrucks at Gigafactory, Texas. Cybertruck release candidate. This one has a Texas plate on it. Another Cybertruck sighting, this one with a wrap on it. There's been multiple wraps. There was a Toyota Tacoma wrap. There was a Ford F-150 wrap. A lot of cool stuff happening in Cybertruck. And then Elon tweeted an image, and you got Tesla Semi. And what has it got loaded on there? It's got 3YSXS, I think, and of course a Cybertruck on the back. My friend Landon pointed out it was odd to put the Cybertruck all the way at the back, that truck the trucker would not want the heaviest load to be on the very back because it makes driving it more awkward. And he suggested, my friend Landon suggested, maybe that means that Cybertruck isn't that heavy and therefore not that much of a problem. My guess is it's actually going to be the first one off the trailer, or the second one off the trailer, of the first one off the trailer of the top row. That's my guess, but I don't know. Maybe they're going to two different locations and the bottom row, whatever. So then next topic, Model 3 refresh. I got this wrong. I've said this already that I got Model 3 refresh wrong. There is a refresh. Model 3 refresh is for sale in Japan. I think a friend of mine posted this image, but I can pull this up. You can pull, anybody can pull this up on the Japan website. And my friend on Shintaro Ando, who drove me around, me and my kids around Tokyo, and I had breakfast, I think, with him when I first arrived in Japan on this trip. He attended an event. There was an event for Tesla Owners Club of Japan influencers, where he was invited. I think my friend Steve Ikeda was invited, and they took pictures. There was a white refreshed Model 3 on site, and Ikeda posted a video of his tour of Mr. Ikeda, Steve Ikeda, posted a video of his tour of Model 3 in Japan. So really cool stuff. We're seeing a lot of cool things happening. Yeah, and thank you, Mark Plot. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please subscribe. Please support me on the Locals platform, on Patreon, as a YouTube channel member, as a Twitter subscriber. Any support's appreciated. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. This t-shirt says "Turn impossible into late." That's Tesla and SpaceX motto basically is they take things that are impossible and they get them done late. Other news about Tesla. Tesla has launched Powerwall 3. I wasn't sure this was accurate when Sawyer Merritt first posted it. Unfortunately, I didn't respond because not long after Elon responded, yes, this is Powerwall 3, optimized for ease of installation and high power, in other words, power output, which means that a single Powerwall can serve as an uninterruptible power supply for most homes. It's a big deal for ensuring the lights stay on. You can power all your devices in the event of a power outage. Sawyer noted that Powerwall 2 is approximately 2 inches shorter, 6 inches narrower, and 1 inch thicker versus Generation 2, according to Tesla Motor Club member Andy. So there is some update on Powerwall 3. Tesla has not, as far as I know, published any of the details about Powerwall 3. Elon gave a little bit of detail here. We'd love to hear more. So I'm surprised we're not hearing more. Mark Plot says Cybertruck could be only 6,000 pounds. I think Cybertruck is 5,500 pounds or less. It depends on which trim of Cybertruck. It depends on how big the battery pack is. There's a lot of different factors. There's now a hint that the exoskeleton steel may not be 3 millimeters in width. It may be less than 3 millimeters. If that's the case, then the steel shell would weigh less, and that would reduce weight even further than my estimates. So, lots of great news there. But another topic, I'm going to make a video, I think, about this topic and broader than this topic. Farzad suggests that Model S and X might be discontinued. I've been actually saying this for a while. He said it'll be interesting to see what Tesla decides to do with the Fremont factory once they release the compact and robotaxi variant of the platform. Pointing out, and my point is this, that as Tesla's volume of production grows and they start heading towards 20 million vehicles, 80,000 Model S's and X's is like a distraction from, because that's what they're doing a year, 80,000 Model S's and X's. Are they going to be able to get sales over that 80,000 units a year number? And how much are they not making in profit, or how much is profit suffering by having to sell the vehicles as cheap as they're selling them now? I don't know the answer to those questions. Farzad suggests repurposing the space at Fremont to build something else. I don't think that's Tesla's approach. If Tesla's going to build something new, they're going to build a new factory for it. They're going to build it in a new space. The Fremont space is not ideal for the new methods of production. So Tom says, I'm just going to diverge for a second. Tom says, critics claim Tesla cars are poorly made with issues in finishing, assembly, and overall quality. Do you agree with these claims? No, I don't agree with those claims. And you know what? Neither do people who own Teslas. What do we know? Tesla has the highest brand loyalty in the industry, and by a lot. Like number 2 is Lexus. Tesla's brand loyalty is much higher. You don't get a high brand loyalty when you have poor quality. It's not a rocket scientist. If you have poor quality, you're not going to have high brand loyalty. They must have high brand quality because they have high brand loyalty. It's just idiotic. So are there some details of a Tesla that are different than other cars that some people don't like? Sure. But in terms of overall quality, yes, it's a great quality vehicle. Tom says, I'm a Tesla shareholder, but I don't own a Tesla car. I don't know the truth. I own 2 Teslas. My Model 3 has 108,000 miles. It still drives like a dream. My Model X Plaid, I think Model X and Model S in particular have higher warranty claims. You have to bring them into the dealership, the service more. But with that said, my Model X has 44,000 miles in a little over a year. I drove it across the country, round trip once. I drove it to Texas back and forth twice, from Florida to New York and New Hampshire once. I put a lot of miles on that thing, and it drives like a dream. So, there are tiny details that he tweak. Like I'm on my third yoke, right? I've had to replace the yoke steering wheel twice. Um, wasn't a particularly big burden. It's mobile service. Somebody comes to the house and replaces the yoke, and it doesn't take any time, and it doesn't cost me any money, so it's not a big deal. A lot of the service issues happen really fast and are not a big deal. So in a lot of ways, it's better. And it's better than other cars. Okay, I'm going to turn to some other loose topics about Tesla. We're going to go to SpaceX next. I got a lot about SpaceX to talk about. Going too fast. I feel like I'm going too fast here. Um, there's this Drew Dixon who's kind of a Tesla Q guy. And he says, here comes BYD, talking about BYD as an ever growing model lineup with $11,000 to $160,000, now supplies batteries to Tesla, making these two arch rivals frenemies too. Okay, so BYD and Tesla are not, and there's this common notion that Tesla and BYD are competing with each other. And I hear this all the time. Oh, look out, Tesla. This EV company, there's this new EV from Ford, there's this new EV from Volkswagen, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. EV makers are not enemies of each other. EV makers are working together to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy and sustainable transportation, to remove gasoline cars from the road and replace them with EVs. Until EVs are 80, 90% of the market, they're not really competing with each other. They're competing with gas vehicles to get gas vehicles off the road. And BYD, it's not new that BYD now supplies batteries to Tesla. We've known there was a partnership between BYD and Tesla for a while. It is smart for BYD to sell batteries to Tesla, and it is smart for Tesla to buy batteries from BYD. This is a good thing. This is a great positive development for Tesla. It's a great positive development for EVs. It's a great positive development for the world. This notion that, that like Dojo competes with Nvidia in theory, so therefore there's a problem. No, Tesla's buying chips from Nvidia. They're buying hardware from Nvidia. These guys are working together to accelerate AI. They're working together to accelerate the future. This idea that there's this competition and BYD's trying to kill Tesla and Tesla's trying to kill BYD, it's not true. Free Kekistan says, Warren, what if you meet the perfect woman and she wants little Warrens, but she wants you out of Tesla? What would you do? If she wants me to not drive a Tesla, I'm living in Japan, I don't need a car. If she wants me out of Tesla stock, why would she want that? That doesn't make any sense. You want me to not be rich? Uh, BYD pads their production. I'm not worried about. Look, BYD is making EVs. This is great. They're making battery electric vehicles. David Rucker says, Warren, based on the decision to manufacture the next gen car in Austin, I'm glad you brought that up because I should be talking about that. I didn't have it on my list. Do you think that the flurry of equipment going into the facility there could be for supporting that, maybe a release in Q1? I don't think a release is happening in Q1. I do think that, so let's be clear for people who didn't follow this. Tesla announced Giga Mexico, that they would be building the next generation vehicle in Mexico. Now, I don't think Tesla said that Giga Mexico was going to be the first place to build the next generation vehicle. I think they simply said we're going to be building the next generation vehicle in Giga Mexico. I may be wrong about that. Maybe they did say it would be first, but I've known for a while. Walter Isaacson is the one who revealed this change to Texas, supposed change to Texas. I heard Walter Isaacson talk about this over a month ago, that Tesla was planning to build the next generation vehicle in Texas. I think Walter gets some things potentially wrong. We know that Giga Berlin has filed for permits to expand and add, another 500,000 vehicles production capacity. That's going to be the next generation vehicle. I think that Tesla is working particularly hard on developing the manufacturing process for the next generation vehicle, and they're doing that in Texas because that's where their manufacturing engineers are located. But that doesn't mean they're not going to produce the vehicle elsewhere. They're going to produce it all over the place. Um, okay, so that's an important detail. I think we're going to see next gen vehicle in Texas, next gen vehicle in Mexico, next gen vehicle in Berlin, and next gen vehicle in Shanghai, most likely, maybe somewhere else in China. Um, I'd like to see it in Japan. Unfortunately, based on my knowledge so far, the Japanese market for Tesla so far has been very small. Maybe the next generation vehicle has the potential to unlock the Japanese market, but I think initially they're just going to sell Chinese made vehicles in Japan and see if they can crack the Japanese market. And if the demand for the next gen vehicle becomes big enough, then maybe they build a Giga Japan. And my pitch for Giga Japan is number one, cost of living, the labor costs are much lower here than they are in the US. Tremendous engineering talent. There's a tremendous work ethic. I would love to see a Tesla factory in Japan to produce the next generation vehicle. Yeah, elonbits.com for the t-shirts and the stainless steel water bottles and all that. Thank you, Mark. So, what was the last thing I have here? So, Elon revealed there's a bit more reveal in Walter Isaacson's book, excerpts from Walter Isaacson's book, which is coming out in a few days, I think. Um, Tesla owner for Silicon Valley, that's John, said the Tesla's 25K car and dedicated robotaxi will be Cybertruck inspired thoughts. And Elon said it will not be Cybertruck inspired, but it will look like the future. That's an important distinction. There's something going to be really cool about the next generation vehicle and the robotaxi. We don't know what they look like yet. Um, I want to push back. I think there's a lot of talk about a $25,000 car. I genuinely believe that Tesla is pushing for $20,000 on the next gen vehicle, on the robotaxi in particular. Now, there's the robotaxi version, and apparently there's going to be a steering wheel version. The robotaxi version is not going to have a steering wheel. Isaacson details that Elon wanted one with no steering wheel, no pedals, no mirrors, etc. Franz von Holzhausen, working out behind Elon's back, did his best to come up with something that Elon would be find acceptable to have a steering wheel and pedals because some parts of the world might resist letting the robotaxi operate as a robotaxi, and they needed a vehicle for those markets. And it appears that those will both appear. So when they said at the Investor Day that there would be two vehicles, apparently, not sure, apparently what they meant was there's the robotaxi vehicle with no steering wheel, no pedals, no mirrors, and there's the version that's going to have a steering wheel and pedals for the markets that don't allow it. Best car is no car. All right. So, all right, let's see. We're doing good. This is pretty good. By the way, I'm doing this at an much earlier time than I usually. I think I'm going to do this again for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to experiment with an evening for the afternoon/evening live stream for the US, rather than what I'm doing now, which is early morning or morning and early morning for the US. Just trying out different things. If you have any thoughts on being this early versus being in the evening, let me know what you think. If I do it in the afternoon, evening in the US, that means it's in the morning for me on Monday in Japan. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to work best. I got one more. No mirrors necessary. Elon is saying that in the future there will be no side or rear view mirrors in the future. Side mirrors in particular are bad aerodynamically. The rear view mirror is not particularly bad, but if there's no human driving, you don't need mirrors. The vehicle has cameras. So, all right. So let's move to the next set of topics. I think we're still on Tesla for a little bit. This is FSD related. Isaacson had a fairly I think Isaacson is releasing little bits and pieces here and there because he wants to stir up interest in his book, because his book is about to go on sale. Best jet is no jet. So Mark Potashnik says by going before football, it's a good time because in football season, and I guess in general sports season, Sunday there's a lot of sports on Sunday. So if I go morning, maybe I beat the sports. Okay, maybe that's a good theory. So Isaacson details some reasons why, um, what Tesla is doing, and Elon points, and the point, Sawyer's point is that it's not going, like Gary Black has said, as soon as Tesla achieves full autonomy, others will copy them. There's this notion people have that Tesla doesn't have a particularly big lead in autonomy, or if they do have a lead, that others will just catch up. And Elon points out you need a long tail of training data. Reality has a vast number of weird edge cases required to solve self-driving well. And Tesla has a fleet of 4 or 5 million cars on the road, and that fleet is growing. And by the time they solve FSD, it'll be 6, 7, 8 million vehicles on the road generating data, and nobody else has a fleet of cars with cameras and chips generating the data and uploading that data to a data center. And then you need a crazy amount of training compute, which is currently our primary constraint. Nobody else has the supercomputer training cluster like Tesla has to be able to do the things that are necessary to do what Tesla's doing. So Tesla's lead is huge. Hi, Rich. Phoebe says most taxi rides below 40 miles per hour, aerodynamic design unnecessary. Well, if it depends on how many miles, it depends where you are. Certainly, robotaxi rides in New York City are going to be under 40 miles an hour most of the time. But some robotaxi rides, depending on where you are in the suburbs, there's a lot of driving is on the highway. So that really depends. And it doesn't hurt to have good aerodynamics, even at lower speeds. So I think the aerodynamics matter at least a little. So, yeah, I just wanted to cover that point. What else we got? Okay, lithium. This relates to Tesla and batteries. There's this discovery of some ridiculous volume of lithium metal in a volcanic crater in the United States. Pretty exciting. Elon downplaying that, saying lithium ore is quite common throughout the world. The limiting factor is refining. Same goes for the cathode, which is primarily iron. Plenty of refining for iron in the world, or nickel, and the anode, which is carbon. Refining matters more than ore. Now, Jordan Giesecke, limiting factor, and I recommend supporting Jordan on Patreon. You get early access to his videos. He's doing videos about whether there's enough lithium and whether there's enough sodium. What the prospects are for sodium. What's the Jordan, I think, disagrees with Elon. He thinks that mining of lithium and or sodium, whatever the progress on sodium and the mining of lithium may not be sufficient to achieve the volume of lithium necessary to support the volume of batteries needed. I think Jordan's wrong, and I don't just think so because Elon is saying so, but also because CATL, LG Chem, Panasonic, Samsung, all these battery making companies are scaling up as if they have a supply of lithium. And my guess is they have supplies of lithium that Jordan doesn't know about and Battery Bulletin doesn't know about. And all these people are saying there isn't sufficient lithium. They probably just don't realize there's more lithium out there and they don't see. I don't know. I mean, Jordan is very compelling, and I believe in Jordan, but the limiting factor YouTube channel. But I think fundamentally there's a lot of other signs that suggest to me there's ample lithium and not a huge problem. Okay, so what's next? Did that twice? I did that twice. That's funny. Okay. So we're moving off Tesla now. This is loosely related to Tesla. A follower of mine, I think he's a supporter on the Locals platform, James, got an email. He had a Ford F-150 Lightning order. He has a Ford F-150 Lightning order. Ford keeps telling him, and I think he ordered it like 2 or 3 years ago, and Ford keeps telling him, we can't get you your vehicle yet. Ordered an F-150 Lightning XLT. While production of your vehicle was projected to begin the week of August 28th, supply chain challenges continue to cause delays and uncertainty. Supply chain challenges, really? Like, we're this far into it and you're still having supply chain challenges? Watch out, Tesla. Here comes Ford. Come on. It's pathetic. So, moving on. Yes, that would be cool, Johnny Football. I think Joe Tedmeyer has droned the lithium factories. I don't know if that's necessary yet, but it doesn't hurt to do it. Okay, so there's frequently people will criticize Neuralink, which is Elon's brain implant company that is going to cure brain disease and help paralyzed people walk again, help blind people see, all kinds of things. So there's been these constant reports that 15 of 23 monkeys implanted with Elon Musk's Neuralink brain chips have reportedly died, and Elon made it very clear here, because he's never really directly addressed this before, and he's finally directly addressed this. No monkey has died as a result of a Neuralink implant. Our early implants their first early implants were to minimize risk to healthy monkeys. He chose terminal monkeys. They implanted the brain implants in monkeys that were near death anyway. So those monkeys died because they were on their way to dying anyway. So um, this notion that Neuralink is killing monkeys or abusing animals is false. It is just there's an endless stream of negative attacks on Elon. I'll be talking about that in the context of politics on the Daily Lie after this live stream. In about 30 minutes, I'm going to end this live stream. I'm going to go to the Daily Lie, warrenredlich.locals.com, link in the top of the chat. And I'll be talking about those political issues, but this is just another example of people attacking Elon's character. Is it funded by the oil industry because they're worried Elon's cutting into the oil industry revenue? Is it there's Elon's businesses are threatening a lot of business models. Elon's power, his grow the growing perception of his power threatens those in power in places. I don't fully understand. The control of X threatens the power of the mainstream media and other media outlets. All these people cracking on it, it's nonsense. Uncle Martin and the Giants says, "Are you confident 4680 will ramp Austin and Berlin? Already 2 years down, dragging no new locations. Cybertruck issues doesn't look as short term. Are we going under 180 early next year with recession ramp up?" So I don't worry about short term share price stuff. So I'm not even going to address that. Drew Baglino said they've got a 10% better, 10% higher energy density cyber cell already. I think things look good. It's hard to say, but we're certainly seeing a lot of Cybertrucks out there. Why are we seeing so many Cybertrucks out there? Because they're about to start producing Cybertrucks in volume. That's why. Arctic Texan says Joe Tetmeyer is a 5-part series on the lithium factory from recent drone flyover. Thank you. Yes, I know Elon replied to my post the other day. That's at the beginning of this live stream. I talked about that at the beginning of this live stream. All right. So back to Japan, and now we're shifting over to SpaceX. We'll be talking about SpaceX a bit next, particularly Starship. But I'm on X, and let me make this bigger for you guys to see, if you guys can see. I got an ad for Starlink on X, aka Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I got an ad on my feed. It says, "Oh no," I can't read it, but it's like pumping. The thing in here says Japan, all of Japan. You can use it. You can use it in all of Japan. And the pricing, I went to the website, and the pricing was 200. There's a current promotion of $250 for the hardware, down from $500. That's roughly what we charge in the U.S. And these numbers do roughly correlate to 500 for the normal price and 250 for the current price. And then down at the bottom, you can see 6,600 yen a month, which is $45 a month for service in Japan. That is like less than half of the price of service in the US. It's pretty amazing. Okay. Now, Starship. This is the big one. This is like, as much as I love Tesla, as sorry, Matt Burns says, will Giga Mexico just supply Central and South America? I think Giga Mexico will supply Latin America, yes. Don't forget, Mexico is in North America. It's possible that Giga Mexico will supply other locations that they'll export to other markets. I'm not sure. Maybe Africa. I'm just guessing. I don't know where they'll go. So there was a tweet by the FAA earlier, like a couple days ago, that SpaceX had to comply with 63 item punch lists where they could get clearance to launch. And Elon, just like this is 6 hours ago, says congrats to the SpaceX team for completing and documenting the 57 items required by the FAA for Flight 2 of Starship. 6 of the 63 items the FAA mentioned were actually for later flights, not for these flights. One of the items was they wanted to install like 90 additional cameras to look for leaks or something like that. So all that's done. And then, Starship is stacked. Starship is stacked. Flight 2 is about to happen. Elon is pumped. I'm pumped. I know a lot of people are pumped about this. This is so. Let me just explain why this matters. Maybe a lot of you already understand this, but before SpaceX, the booster and the second stage, after launch, the payload would go into orbit and everything else was wasted, and you'd have to build a new rocket. Imagine if when you flew from New York to Los Angeles, instead of the plane landing in Los Angeles, everybody jumped out of the plane and the plane crashed, and they had to build a new plane when you want to fly back. Well, now With Falcon 9, they were using the booster stage. And the goal with Starship is to be able to use the upper stage. There's a lot of other advantages to Starship. They're using methalox, liquid methane, liquid oxygen, which is less expensive than RP1, kerosene. They're using stainless steel for constructing the Starship, which is less expensive than carbon fiber that's commonly used for making spacecraft. So before SpaceX, the cost of launching a kilogram into low Earth orbit was about $10,000. With Falcon 9, it's probably $1,000 or less for launching a kilogram into orbit. They'll lose the upper stage, so that still adds a lot of cost. With Starship, the expectation is it's going to go down to $20 or less kilogram into orbit. That is a 500x drop from the $10,000 it used to be. Access to space becomes compelling. It's going to cost less to launch a payload, a kilogram into orbit, than it would cost to send a kilogram from New York to Los Angeles. This is nuts. Kilograms, 2.2 pounds. Crazy. Massive improvement. When is it supposed to launch? Cycle Gamer says, any day now? Amy Neiman says, "Will you fly back to see Starship launch?" No. And a lot of people have asked me that. I am in Japan as a tourist. I believe if I leave Japan before I have a residency status, I'm working on getting a visa. If I leave Japan before I get that residency status, I mean, I may have to leave because if I don't get the residency status within 90 days, I may not be able to come back to Japan if I leave Japan. I'm not sure how entry works. I don't want to risk it by leaving Japan and then not being able to get back. I have this apartment for 12 weeks, 11 more weeks. So I'm not leaving Japan to watch a launch. I hope to get my visa before the end of the 11 weeks that are left. Think I'm making progress. I may have to, I have a flight back. I may spend Thanksgiving with my family and then come back after. We'll see. But ideally, I get the visa and I don't have to leave Japan. And I don't really, I watched a lot of, Amy knows, Amy lives in the Cape Canaveral area. And Amy just sent me a photo of a launch today that I missed. And uh, I watched so many launches and I did see the first Starship flight attempt. So I think I've got enough under my belt and I'm pursuing new adventures now. I'm less worried about, and I do think if I were going to try to watch something related to the launch, I would fly to Hawaii, try to watch the landing rather than being in Texas to watch the launch. I think that would be. Why am I in Japan? Oh my God, do I have time for that? I'm in Japan because, I mean, officially I'm in Japan to start up the pod car. That is what I'm pursuing the visa for. That is what I'm working on. I've been doing a lot of work towards that, networking with local engineering students who work on EVs, a whole bunch of things like that. I'm in Japan because the cost of living is less than half of my cost of living in Florida. This apartment, including utilities and internet, is under $1,000 a month. And this is higher cost. This is a studio apartment. This is higher cost than what I expect to happen once I have residency status. And the real underlying reason is because I want to find a wife and have kids, and that wasn't working in the US. I'm giving Japan a shot. But I love Japan and I may stay here for the rest of my life. If I follow the path I'm following, I should be able to get permanent residency status. So that answers that question. Um, yes, this is late for a Sunday live. Does it make you nervous that Tesla's like 80x earnings and that volume is going to fall because of the toolings and they warned of lower margins in the next quarter, probably more? So I am not worried about short-term share price. I am focused on the long term, and I see Tesla going to 20 million vehicles. I see Tesla going to a terawatt hour or more of Megapacks and Powerwalls. I see Tesla developing FSD and delivering robotaxi rides. I see Tesla developing bot. I see Tesla going from a current market cap of $600 or $700 billion to $10 trillion to $100 trillion or more. It doesn't have to be 30 years or so. Yes, I want to have kids again. I have 2 kids who are adults. I love being a dad. It's the best thing I've done in life. I'm very proud of how they turned out. I'm good at being a dad. Pretty good husband for 20 plus years. How was learning the language? I already knew Japanese reasonably well. I lived in Japan about 30 years ago. Who's driving your Tesla while you were in Japan? My Model 3, my younger child has been driving my Model 3 since I got the Model X. The Model X, I am working on getting rid of it one way or another. I've got a friend in Florida who is driving my Model X who put it on his insurance, and he should be making payments and taking over the loan. The loan is only at like 3.5%. If he were to buy a new one or a used one, his loan would be like 10%, so or 8%, so it's a better deal. Is Tesla popular in Japan where you stay? No, Teslas are not doing well in Japan. Um, yeah, my Japanese is pretty good. It's not great. I need to work on it. I it is one of the items on my agenda to like try to read one article a day from Nihon Keizai Shimbun, which is Japan economics newspaper. It's equivalent to the Wall Street Journal. Notice how I say Nihon Keizai Shimbun. If you know Japanese, you know I said that reasonably well. Um, are you saving money because if it drops 80%, you can buy so much more? I'm saving money. Makes sense to save money. I earn an income from what I'm doing here, from what I'm doing on X, from what I'm doing on the Daily Lie. I have a pile of cash from selling my house, marital home, have my Tesla stock, and I want my cash to last longer. So I don't have to sell Tesla stock. I did buy more Tesla stock recently. I suppose if it lasts longer, I may at some point buy more Tesla stock. Tom says, Warren, I'm a Korean American. I lived in Korea for a long time. Since you live in Japan, please consider visiting neighboring Korea frequently. It's great. I visited Korea in 1994 and 1995 when it was much poorer. I do intend to take, I've realized that traveling in Asia is a lot cheaper from Japan, and I do intend to travel in Asia um, in 2024 once I get residency status. Let me finish with Starship. Sorry. So, thousands of upgrades. So SpaceX talked about how their testing, development, flight hardware in a flight environment is what enables our teams to quickly learn and execute design changes and hardware upgrades to improve the probability of success in the future. Learned a tremendous amount about the vehicle and ground systems during the flight test. And Elon said thousands of upgrades to Starship and Launchpad Mechazilla. Mechazilla is the launch tower and launch pad. Um, I just want to know quickly, this is my strategy for the pod car. The strategy, if we can, once I get residency status, I'm going to start hiring Japanese engineering students who have been building EV race cars for the EV teams at their university for university-wide competition, which I attended a week ago, a little more than a week ago now. And the idea is build a prototype, figure out why it sucks, figure out how do we make it suck less, keep iterating, keep iterating, keep iterating, build prototypes until you have something that really doesn't suck that much. And then hire a full-time engineering team and, at some point do a funding round, raise money. And Japanese engineers are significantly less expensive than American engineers. And frankly, I think Japanese workforce in general has a better work ethic than the American work. Um, okay, so and then following that, SpaceX also posted recursive improvement is essential as we work to build a fully reusable launch system capable of carrying satellites, payloads, crew, and cargo to a variety of orbits and Earth, lunar, or Martian landing sites. Thinking big. I love it. It's coming soon. And then John from Silicon Valley, Tel's owner of Silicon Valley, said Starship is the biggest rocket ever built. Elon notes likely to be 10 to 20% longer in later versions. In the past, Elon, so that's longer. It's already, I think, taller is another way of putting it. That Starship will get longer or taller, which will enable more payload, or maybe it'll enable more fuel, or maybe both. Um, in the past, Elon had talked about doing a larger diameter Starship. I think they've gone away from a larger diameter Starship. We'll see. In the past, Elon had talked about needing a new engine to replace Raptor. Maybe Raptor 2 has become good enough. He doesn't think that's necessary anymore. I still think there's another engine coming. I think there will be a stock split next year. I don't care about stock split. I think stock splits are irrelevant. Are you going to date Japanese women? I hope so. Is it true Japan is xenophobic to foreign car companies like Tesla? Not. I think luxury car makers are popular in Japan, but they don't sell in high volume. The real challenge, I think, is that there's this whole market of what are called K cars, KEI, which is light cars that have a maximum engine displacement of 660. They're just much smaller vehicles. The Japanese roads, the Japanese market, Japanese people don't have as much money. You need a less expensive, smaller vehicle to satisfy the Japanese market. I think that's part of it. I think also maybe there's some tendency to be loyal to your car dealer. Toyota and The other Japanese car companies have really built effective dealerships, so it's hard to get around the dealership loyalty thing. I'm guessing I don't fully understand the problems in Japan yet. That's one of the things I hope to make videos about in the future. Warren previously complained that most US women want to date a 6 foot tall, too tall, muscular dude looking like Henry Cavill. They aren't realistic. I don't think that's been my complaint. I mean, I do think that there's challenges dating in America. I don't think that was necessarily my problem. That's a common complaint I've seen otherwise. I think that's an issue. I think my biggest challenge in America is I'm 57 years old and I want to date somebody under 35. And it's hard to find women in America who will date a man who's 57 or under 35. And the first impression I make in America is old. The first impression I make in Japan is foreign. I think it gives me a better shot. Um, and Japanese women do like Western men. So I'm sorry to hear that, Mark Patachnik, about your wife has dementia. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, okay, so there's an interesting little detail. SpaceX stopped live streaming on YouTube, and they're only live streaming on X. Want to watch SpaceX launches? You got to watch them on X now. Not going to be on YouTube. Uh, I'm still live streaming on YouTube. I just to be clear, I can expect to continue live streaming on YouTube. I don't have any particular plan to change my live streams to the X platform anytime soon. Number one, this feature I've got right here where I'm putting an image up on the screen, as far as I know, that's not enabled yet on X. Number two, my experience on the YouTube platform is you guys on average are going to watch 20 minutes of this video. On the X platform, people watch an average of 15 to 30 seconds of my videos. Right now, X is not a good platform for me for long form content. It may change at some point. It may get better. I'm monitoring it. I'm going to post this video on the X platform. I'm recording this video on my computer, and I'm going to post this video and the next video on X, the daily live video, which will be live streaming in 15 minutes or so. Where I'm going to talk about politics after this video is over. So please support me and follow me on the Daily Lie, warrenredlich.locals.com. So, very clear statement from Elon. Number one, by the way, they just had a launch of Starlink satellites. These are the next generation satellites Elon talked about, so this is cool. The next generation Starlink satellites that are higher bandwidth, and there's more coming on Starship. Leonardo Garcia says, Warren, when you're in a stage of developing a product, imagination is what counts, work ethic, etc., is considered when you go into production. No, okay, so I'm in the imagination. I don't have a problem with imagination. I've got all the imagination I need for this project. I need engineers who can get the work done. I know what I want. I need engineers who can get the work done. Once we get the work done, then we figure it out. And no, imagination is not the only thing that counts. Work ethic matters a lot. Who's flying the bus? Warren has the same superpower that Batman had in the movie. He was asked, "What's your superpower?" He said, "I'm rich." I'm not as rich as Batman or Adam. Bruce. What's his name? Bruce Wayne. I'm not as rich as Bruce Wayne, but I have enough money that I can earn $50,000 this year on a stupid idea, building a pod car, and maybe another 50,000 next year. I've got enough money to burn money for that. Maybe it's dumb, but I'm doing it. Um, okay, so I think that is that everything. Okay, that's everything. So let's look in the chat. When you're When did you first buy Tesla shares? Somebody asked how many shares I own. I own a lot. I don't disclose the number that I own. I own more than $1 million in Tesla stock. Let's just go with that. Um, when did I first buy Tesla shares? So this relates to SpaceX actually. What happened is I was following SpaceX and Tesla, and then there's this moment where um, the first rocket booster lands successfully, which was December 21, 2015. I think it's one of the greatest moments in human history. That is the step that made it clear we're going to Mars. Humanity will become a multi-planet species. Access to space, the cost of access to space is radically changed. And one of the greatest engineering feats in the history of the world was landing that first rocket booster. Absolutely amazing. When I saw that, I started researching Tesla more seriously. I bought my first shares maybe in my mom's account, which is now mine, February 2016. Ripcord says Arcimoto proves work ethic matters since they are lazy. AF. I don't agree with that completely. I did visit the Arcimoto facility. I did get the impression that they were a little, they didn't have the startup mentality of got to work our asses off. They talked about how important work-life balance was. I think they also struggled with a lack of focus, that I think they had something with their FUV, their main vehicle, and they got distracted by making a variety of versions of the FUV, about other three-wheeled vehicle. I think if they just focused on getting the manufacturing down of one version of their FUV, maybe the Roadster version, which is kind of like a three-wheeled Harley, but pick one, get it down, manufacture it in volume, and sell it. That would have solved. That would have been a lot better for Arcimoto than what they did, my opinion. Leonardo Garcia, please email me. I'm not going to remember your comment on the chat saying, please take a look at XRO Technologies, EXRO Technologies. They might use your. So I've had many people tell me, Warren, your pod car is like this, your pod car is like that. And almost every time it's not what I'm doing. So if you want to email me, wredlick@gmail.com, I'll take a look at it. But I almost guarantee you, whatever you're telling me is not what I'm doing. What's the deal with this Mark Plot dude? Mark Plot is the moderator and or one of the moderators, and he is one of the most. I love Mark Plot. Mark Plot is one of the most loyal subscribers to my channel and a great guy. So, and Jim Whitehead and Mark Potashnik are also moderators and also very loyal subscribers. I greatly appreciate them. The fact that they're having this conversation in the chat is fine. Leonardo, what you just described does not sound like what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a vehicle that is a single passenger vehicle, single passenger, that is optimal for one person in a robotaxi network. 60 to 80% of traffic in a robotaxi world will be one person going from point A to point B. Why put them in a car that's designed to handle 5 people? Come up with a vehicle that's optimized for one person, that gets the cost to the owner, which let's say it's me. I build this vehicle. If I can get my cost down to a penny a mile, then I can sell it. A penny a mile works out to 2 cents a mile when you figure that half the miles are paid. 2 cents per paid mile. I can sell rides for 5 cents a mile and still make a substantial profit. Any other vehicle that people have been talking about as a robotaxi, in their dreams, they're going to get the price of a ride down to 25 cents a mile. I'm going to be able to sell rides for 5 cents a mile. That's the vision. Of course, I'm going to need a motor, but that's missing the point. The point is that the vehicle has to be optimized. Listen, the whole idea is build something, figure out why it sucks and make it better. And if the motor isn't good, we'll make a better motor. We'll get a better motor. All these things come together. Mark Plot says you can have 2x2 pod cars on roads. I don't know what 2x2 pod cars mean. Oh, you can have them side by side, maybe? Why do you want women under 35 for fertility? I want a woman under 35 for fertility. That's why, because women under 35 are more fertile than women over 35. It's just a practical reality that as a woman ages, her fertility declines. If you don't realize that, you don't realize that. And there's a documentary called Birth Gap. I recommend watching that if you don't understand it. If you think freezing eggs solves the problem, it doesn't. It may help, but it doesn't solve the problem. And you find somebody who's 36, and then you date for a couple of years before you decide to have kids, and now she's 38, and it gets harder. Have you found a good onsen in your neighborhood? I'm not really into onsens. The hotel I was staying in at the event I was at did have a sense the right term, but it had a bath spa on the roof, and that was okay, but it's just not my thing. John Golembuski says, what's Tesla's plan for families with children needing a car seat in a robotaxi? Well, in a robotaxi world, they're not going to crash. But I imagine you summon a car, you tell the app, I need a car with a car seat. You're done. Leonardo, I just told you, email me the information on XRO Technologies and I'll take a look. If Tesla solves the 4680 problems, do you think Austin goes 100% 4680 production for all its cars? In the long term, I think Tesla goes 4680, but also there's lithium iron phosphate, there's lithium iron phosphate with manganese. I think there's a variety of battery technologies. There's structural packs that aren't 4680. I think there's a lot of different approaches, and I don't think that they will use nickel-based 4680s for standard range Model Y, for example. For the robo-taxi won't necessarily be 4680. Cybertruck and Semi will be 4680. I think the next generation S and X will be 4680. I think the Roadster might be 4680. But in two 20-year-olds. Tom says, Warren, do you want a baby? I want more than one baby. I want kids. I love kids. About 5 minutes left before I'm going to wrap this up and go to the Daily Lie. I'm going to be talking about Elon and politics on the Daily Lie on my channel on the Daily Lie. The link is in the top of the chat. It's warrenredlich.locals.com. You can just follow me on there, sign up without paying to watch videos there. I do some content on there that's for supporters only. Please consider supporting me on that platform, or as a YouTube channel member, or as an ex-subscriber, or as a Patreon supporter. I will say Patreon support has been declining. I don't do as much on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, you want to support me on another platform. I would say mainly as an ex-subscriber is probably the best one in the long-term future. But the Daily Lie I expect to continue going, and YouTube I expect to continue going. So the channel member. I would never buy a one-passenger car due to safety issues, even though I usually drive alone. The intention of the pod car is not to be sold to consumers. It's to sell rides to people who need rides. And the target markets are places like India and Egypt, the middle class in poor countries like India and Egypt, and the working class people in middle income developing countries. It's not really targeted to wealthy countries initially. European version of Tesla Semi. I'm sure that's coming. What's my email address again? wredlich@gmail.com. wredlich@gmail.com. If you go to the About page of any YouTuber, there you should be able to get their email address by checking a box. You have to like prove you're human to get the email address. Just a tip for anybody. Go to a YouTube channel page, click the About. You should be able to get their email address, and I think you have to click what do you call it, a CAPTCHA to prove you're human. Is it for beauty reasons? Will you date an 18-year-old? I would date an 18-year-old, I guess. I mean, my target age range is like 24 to 35 or something like that, or 24 to 34. My guess is that for Japanese women, probably have to be about 28 before they're willing to date a man as old as me, because they really start to get motivated to have kids, and it really starts to get harder for them to find a husband who wants to have kids when they hit around age 28. That's just Japanese stuff. What's the documentary I just recommended? It's called Birth Gap. It's actually the author, the guy's name is Stephen Shaw, Stephen J. Shaw. He's on Twitter. He's on X, I mean. And he has a great podcast interview with Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast. So Google Stephen Shaw Modern Wisdom, or YouTube search for Stephen Shaw Modern Wisdom, and watch that interview. I think that's his best interview so far. He's been interviewed by Jordan Peterson. He's been interviewed by others, but the interview with Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast was the best one. And the documentary, the first part of the documentary is on YouTube, called Birth Gap. It relates to population collapse. The problem is 24-year-olds want to party. I don't think Japanese women are the same as American women. I think that's a big cultural difference, that Japanese women are dating because they want to get married and have children. That's a much more common attitude in Japan than it is in America. I think the hoe phase, whatever, is not as common in Japan. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's not as common. Andy Onion says, Konnichiwa, Warren-san. O genki desu ka? Hi, genki desu. I'm actually very happy today. You're welcome, Victor. I would never buy rides in a one-passenger vehicle due to safety issues. Okay, so Rauk R is saying I wouldn't do that. Well, and maybe it's not for you, but you're probably a wealthy American, or a moderately wealthy, or even a middle-class American, and you can afford to ride in a larger vehicle. What about what about middle-class people in poor countries and working-class people in developing countries? That's the target market, not you. This is an important thing. When you're thinking about a business, don't think, does this something I want to buy? Think about it, is the market for this there? And there are billions of people who are middle class people in poor countries or working class people in developing countries. Are you importing the Tesla truck to Japan? I haven't decided yet, Philip. I am thinking about that. Chinese channel pointed out that Asian standards of beauty in women are not US standards, so an odd Asian woman like tall with big breasts is more attractive to foreigners. I don't know. I'm not that picky about women's looks. The only thing is I prefer women who are fit. I'm a little less. I'm generally less attracted to women who are overweight. I don't think that's unusual. I think women are less attracted to men who are overweight, and Americans are like 40% obese, and Japanese are like 4% obese, and men are more obese than women. So it's like 2 or 3% of Japanese women are obese. So Japanese women are vain with focus on beauty, good implants. I have not noticed Japanese women being more vain than American women. I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily true. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up now. I want to thank the moderators. I want to thank you all for watching. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com, stainless steel water bottles, etc. Please support me on the Locals platform. I'm about to go live on the Daily Live, warrenredlich.locals.com. Please follow me there. You can support me on there. Please follow me on X, WRNYGOV. Support me as a subscriber on X. Support me as a YouTube channel member. Support me on Patreon. Like this video, share, and subscribe. And thanks everyone so much for watching.